So for anyone that maybe didn't join us last time or isn't aware of what a narrative architect does, can you tell us just a little bit about who you are and what you do here?
Sure. So like I said, my name is Nico Stevens. I'm narrative architect at Bungie. I've been here since Season of Dawn, and basically of
course, sitting just next to him, a man that is a friend to all Guardian kind and needs no introduction. So we're not going to give him one. Let's go into the show. I'm just kidding. Sitting next to him is, of course, the incomparable one and only Mr. Dylan Gaffner, Global Community Lead here at Bungie. Dylan, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you for your 15-minute Rick Kakis intro. I'm very much looking forward to it.
I tried to edit it down, as you can tell. So for anyone that may not have worked with you or your team in the wild world of social media or is just somehow meeting you for the first time, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do here?
Yeah, so Dylan Gaffner, DMGO4, as many know, Breadmaster, the guy that says we're listening.
Uncovering taken powers, and we met an enemy of the Dread who has taken something from us.
Interesting. And also, in addition to our enemies, there's an ally of ours that had a very difficult start to the story. Are we going to be seeing more of Eris's story as we dive into Act 2?
Yeah, so let's see. So back in Act 1, anybody who's playing through that first mission, you recognize that we had to change Eris's class designation from Lightless Hunter to Shish Kebab.
How dare you?
But in Act 2, you're going to be hearing some whispers from beyond the veil as you're going through Nether, as you're going through Court, and as you're exploring those activities and exploring the Dreadnought more.
A vase, if you're out there, maybe you can help us out and kind of tell us a little bit more about what's to come. Excellent. So that sets the stage, but we're also going to go ahead and dive into an activity here. We've got some gameplay ready to show on screen. Quentin, we've got a new activity that we're going to go ahead and release with Act 2. Can you tell us a little bit about what the Court of Blades is?
Sure. Yeah, Court of Blades. When we were talking about bringing back the Dreadnought, obviously we're going to pay some sort of homage to the fan favorite activity, the Court of Oryx. And so taking that and adding to that a lot of the activities recently have been sort of longer form, maybe a little stressful. We wanted to create a shorter, quicker activity that folks can just come and slay out for 10 minutes. And players may be able to overcome in other ways. So they're simple mechanically. A single player could go and complete the augmentation, but you might be able to.
The augments, there's also going to be some hazards that the Guardians are going to be going up against as well.
And that's because Io is still trapped between worlds, and right now it is in the Ascendant Plane, fully enveloped by it. And Oryx, through the Echo of the Echo of Navigation, I should say, is kind of reaching out to these places of paracausal power, reaching out to Io for this place of darkness, Hive worship, as you see here. The Hive have like massive connections to the darkness, obviously. And then one of the arenas that you haven't seen yet is on Europa, which is the first place that we encountered stasis through Clarity Control, and it is a huge font of dark energy.
Yeah, I can see why they would want to, why Oryx would connect with those places certainly, but no, it's really exciting to get to go back to Io. I think obviously Chad had the same reaction that I had when it was like it showed on screen for the first time.
I've been there.
Yeah.
What is that?
It's been a while, hasn't it? Yeah.
So when we're going through these arenas, like you were talking about the challenges and the difficulty with the Court of Blades, are we going to see similar mechanics to Nether?
Yeah, so a little bit of a refresher. The finale, we walked in, we saw the Echo of Navigation, and this is where Oryx learns that we killed him in the Taken King. Much like we saw in Pit of Heresy, it's a similar idea to that. And then Savathun, on the other end of the spectrum there, is saying...
in Act 3, our featured activity is going to be the return of the Sunless Cell Strike.
Yes. Any Guardians who remember their fond Destiny 1 days of having that like huge batch of thralls running at you up the bridge, now's the chance to check that out. But actually, that'll be arriving with Act 2. Guardian Games is going to be making its triumphant return as well.
Oh yeah. Guardian Games starts next week. March 11th, right at Reset alongside. We have a Bungie Rewards component. So big shout out to Natalie, our rewards team. But we have a really cool jersey that we're going to be offering this year. So go in, do your triumphs, earn your title.
Go play the game, guys, and then you can earn the ability to buy something from us.
Yeah. So there are going to be a couple of...
Why are you here at a Sounders game instead of reading a book?
Yeah, right.
That's my.
We also have a sample here in the studio. This is a large for folks that want to see it.
Huge
really
again,
cool.
shout out. He had a chance
Honestly,
to
imagine
dive
Destiny
in,
players
pardon me, with a
going
little bit of
outdoors.
is to arrive magically brought in. We'll go ahead and start with the fine individual to my left, who you may have met by way of some of our Bungie Fight Ops in the past, or if you work here, she's brandishing a small bottle of teeth. Yes, actually teeth at you during our teams meetings. I'd like to introduce the one and only Nick.
And I've produced a number of teams from
Okay,
activity design,
wrong
free
name
roam,
popped up.
lost sectors,
Said her name was
strikes,
Nico.
to world art palette lighting.
Because we're going to introduce that in just a moment, I promise. But of course, we're going to go ahead and make sure to introduce right next to her, Rodney Thompson, a senior design lead here at Bungie. Rodney,
Is she
how's it
just not
going?
going to answer why she's carrying teeth?
Doing well, thank you.
Is free to all players.
Oh.
It's going to offer something for lower skill for folks that maybe want to start getting into some endgame
Is this
content.
our Onslaught
and it's
V2?
also going to offer some things of higher difficulty. I don't want to
It's
steal
gonna
too
hire
much
people.
thunder.
I don't want to
of
hire.
course.
Yeah,
I mean,
let's tee it up.
Yeah, that allows us a chance to introduce it.
Let's go.
Rodney, would you like to do the honors of introducing
The Rite of the Nine. Yes.
Rite of the Nine?
So
Out
Rite
of-
of the
out
Nine
of the light.
is our new event that we've been working on. Really excited about this. It is a limited time event that features our dungeons. 3 of our dungeons that are part of this event. That's going to be Prophecy, of course, because there's 9 associations, but also Spire of the Watcher and Ghost of the Deep.
Okay.
So these 3 dungeons, we've seen a lot of reaction, positive reaction to the contest modes for our new dungeons as they've come out. And we were thinking, what would it be like if we were able to go back to our older dungeons and experience that kind of level of challenge and see how things play out in these older dungeons with some tweaks and some tuning and some additional modifiers and things like that to really bring the challenge up to kind of contest mode levels, right? So we're like, okay, we got this great set of dungeons. Let's really put the screws to our players and see what they can do in a hard mode for these dungeons.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, we were like, well, a lot of these dungeons, there's a lot of players out there that haven't gotten to experience them because they can be pretty intimidating. They are, mechanically a little more intense. They don't do a lot of hand-holding in the activity. And, they often require, or at least, incentivize you to play with other players, right? So we were thinking, what if we could take this event as an opportunity to introduce these classic dungeons to a whole new audience by way of what we're calling Explorer mode. And so basically we've got new stuff at the top end in Ultimatum mode. We've got new stuff for players, or new opportunities for players to learn the dungeons in Explorer mode. And then we have Eternity mode, which is sort of aimed at our middle-of-the-road experienced dungeoneers. So we've kind of got something for everybody.
Excellent, awesome. Well, we've got stuff to actually show live right here. Tell you what, why don't you guys tell us just a little bit about where we're at right now?
Sure. So this is the social space for the event.
Oh, this is where Charles and I used to be.
Eagle-eyed veterans might notice that this is the 3rd Spire social space.
Yeah.
It was originally used for the Trials of the Nine PvP event. But it's been a while.
It's a death button intrepid one at that, so.
You can see the Spire of the Watcher tower off in the distance. That's indicating that during the week that we have this set for, Spire is the featured dungeon. So there's going to be one of these 3 dungeons featured during each week of the event on a sort of rolling basis.
Okay, yeah. So here we're obviously,
Bungie.
obviously this is a familiar face as well. What are some of the things we're going to be able to get up to here? Obviously, thank you, Gemini. We appreciate the introduction.
So the Emissary is our vendor, and the Emissary offers you quests, bounties, rewards, a wide variety of things to do during the event. Like I say, it's all dungeon focused, but we're going to be leading you into those dungeons and giving you rewards for beating them on the various difficulty levels.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, I believe I see some weaponry here in the background.
Yes.
What are we looking at here?
So for this event, we have taken 4 of the weapons from each of the featured dungeons and given them a big revamp. We've redone their perk pools, introduced perks that have come in over the seasons since the dungeon was released, and put those into these weapons and really given them a good juicing up as far as the perks that are available. And what you're sort of seeing here is the ability to attune to these various weapons, just like you could during Into the Light. Require you to make a few decisions before you go into the dungeon or before you go into an encounter that you wouldn't otherwise necessarily be thinking about. So for example, we're using the not swap activity modifier, which basically means you need to keep one exotic equipped for the duration of an encounter. That's just some better rolls, and of course in the Ultimatum mode, you'll be getting adept versions of the weapons.
Very exciting.
So when you say adept,
I really like this. Wait,
are
adept
they
weapons?
just adept, or do they have any special treatment, you might say?
Well, our weapons have a new visual treatment. Example of a sort of baseline drop of new specific and iconography on it.
This is
and you can also see like
so
it's got
hard.
The color palette.
The fact that there's a temporary
base
event
for
makes me
it.
so sad.
So
they need
all
to
of
make
our
this
weapons that'll
permanent,
drop during this event
and they
will
need to
have
change it every like
visual
6
treatment.
months.
It'll also
to
have
change it
the
to 3
new
other dungeons.
event-exclusive Origin perk, which is Gravity Well. This will drop on all weapons that,
Oh
that
my
drop during
God.
the event.
It's a more accessible experience for new Guardians.
Sure. So one of the things you'll note is that we're using the in-world tooltips to teach you some of the mechanics.
Yo,
so
they
this
know
is
that
something
we've
we've
got art
seen
nodes at the same
used
time,
in the
these guys are
Nether
raw
and
gamers.
in other places in
W
the game so
gamers
far.
over
We're
here.
continuing to. This is how this mechanic works. We're also using waypoints. Here's a great example of one of our teaching waypoints that sort of shows you, hey, here's where the path is supposed to go, and kind of direct you in a lot of the places where there are, not as obvious paths through the dungeon, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like those tooltips and waypoints, we're using those in the encounters to teach you the mechanics. And we do that like the first time you see it, so that later in the dungeon, when you are encountering that mechanic again, you'll have already learned it, and you can take your time and read the tooltips, execute the mechanic at your own pace. One of the things we've done is we've removed darkness phases, and we've reduced the
I don't really mind it as long as it's in this mode.
the revive timer down to 5 seconds in Explorer mode.
Very nice.
So that there is no real penalty for failure.
Yeah.
So if you're just trying to learn the mechanics and you go in and you want to look at the tooltips
It's not like
and
we're
follow
ever
the
gonna play
waypoints
this
at your
game
own
mode, is it?
pace,
It's not
and
before us.
maybe you get overwhelmed.
Into the higher difficulties of the mode, then it's like, oh hey, you remember where those waypoints were? You were able to memorize it.
the
You
jump
have this
puzzles,
like
there's
memory.
extra
Now you can come in and execute at a higher level.
stuff
It's
to make the
aspirational
jumping
content.
easier.
Yeah, here's actually a good example
Oh,
of one
this
of
is
our
actually
shepherding
sick.
mechanics that
Yeah.
we've
This
introduced.
is sick.
So basically, we hear a lot of people say like, oh, I want to take my friends through the dungeon that have never been before. A lot of these traversal sections can be really challenging. So
This is
in
so cool.
this section of Spire,
Not just
That
for Explorer
LMG
mode
was really
where
good, which
you're
is funny
getting
'cause
normal drops and all
currently
that,
it's fucking
but
terrible.
overall through this event. So.
Go on, lad. Solo number one.
Yeah. Well, you get exclusive title that you can get from doing some challenging.
We don't have the name solidified just yet. But
it's not locked in.
It'll
it's not
come.
locked in.
All right, cool.
It'll be
Well, I'll
fun.
tell you what. Speaking of things we do have locked in, so we've taken a little bit of a look
The
at
title
what's
should
here
be
in
called
Act 3.
Ambassador of the Night,
Dylan, I'm
change
going to
my
go ahead and
mind.
take this chance.
Bungie Rewards T-shirt.
Yeah.
So I think I own
There you go.
6 of these at this point, maybe
Guys,
7.
if you
But
complete
this is the
Moments of Triumph, you can
2024.
earn the
and yes,
ability to
I'm
buy
gonna call this
stuff
out
from
for
us.
my friend
Isn't
Matt.
that cool?
2024 because
me
it's the
your money.
previous year, not 2025.
Yeah.
T-shirt, which is really fun. We have a sample here in the studio. Thank you again, Natalie.
I've earned everyone Bungie and I bought a
Very
single one and I'll
excited.
continue to do so.
This, I believe, is a
Fuck
large
you,
as well. Let's make
bitches.
sure. Yeah, large.
That
so
shirt looks
basically
so
my
cheap
size.
material-wise. That looks like it would
6'1".
rip in 5 seconds.
There we go.
But yeah, you can get
I had
your
the Cade 6 shirt
customization
from when
on
he
the
died the
sleeve
first time
of
in
your
Destiny,
gamer
and it
tag or
ripped
your
so
player name.
fast.
And
Put up here on screen. Let's take a look. Everyone, we'd love to introduce you to Heavy Metal.
What the fuck?
Heavy Metal
Brick
is
Balls.
a opportunity for you to go ahead and take out a team of Drake tanks against a team of Briggs, so you can test to see, whether you're good behind the barrel of a gun or behind
fuck
the
is
barrel of
that?
a Brig. But this was one that just the playtests, pardon me, have just been absolutely insane to watch.
yeah, I'd say since day one of Beyond Light, players saw the Brig come to the game. And
Yeah.
they're like, when do I get one of those?
Fair
and
question.
this is the answer from the development team.
Yeah.
But we had to make it a little competitive. Of Guardians have had their Drake tanks since Destiny 2 launched.
Yeah.
They're really fun. Let's see when you get into matchmaking who can come out on top.
Yeah. This is one that we're very much looking forward to unleashing upon the community. But as you can tell, the Drake tanks and Briggs alike provide some pretty unique tactical
trick shots are
opportunities that
crazy.
we're looking forward to seeing getting into the Guardians' hands. But yeah, this one has just been an absolute hoot to see in development, honestly.
Yeah, and when it comes to like, this is a PvP thing, we say competitive, but this is a goofy, like, this is fun. You're sitting down on a Saturday night, you're chilling with your buds, and it's like, let's hop in a tank and try to do some 360 no-scopes while we, like, boost off of a range.
let's
Yeah,
see
we just
fucking
finished a raid. Let's have a
Trials of
palate cleanser
Osiris
here
mode
and
with
just have a good time.
I want to go for movie of the week. Why don't I hop into a Drake and try to get a triple kill? Like,
Chance.
Yeah.
There weren't enough sick flips in that raid.
Yeah.
Get out there on my Drake tank.
Just how many 360 no scopes can we get into this thing? We'll find out. Does the Drake tank have a scope? I don't think so. But yeah, that's something we'd be remiss if we didn't take a chance. Sorry,
Trials of
off screen they just
Russia.
did a huge jump as well. But we'd be remiss if we didn't take a chance to show that off to all of you. So
Key of
that,
Osiris.
for real this time, concludes our show. So a huge thank, of course, to Nico, Quinton, Morgan, to Nix and Rodney, and of
The jar of
course
teeth.
the one and only Mr. Dylan Gaffner there for joining us today. We
Well,
really
thank you
appreciate you
for
guys taking the time to tell us a little bit more. Sorry?
Thank you for hosting.
I'm also here. But of course, more importantly than even me is our fire team in the back of house. We've got Peyton, Ashley, and of course, my compatriot in social media, Mitch, out there helping us go ahead and do the heavy lifting behind the scenes. Thank you a ton for joining us as always.
That's just the culture.
To the crew here in the house that puts on the show and has to deal with the likes of me, thank you all so much for your time. We really appreciate all of your help. And of course, we'll also, pardon me, ask you all to go ahead and stick around for just a little bit longer, because before we conclude the show, we're going to go ahead and raid Bergen's star. So do us a huge favor. Stick around for a little bit, join the raid, give him a follow, and tell him we said hello.
No, thank you. No, thank you, Bungie.